Hey guys, in this video, we're gonna see what Robert Kiyosaki, the famous American entrepreneur, businessman, and author has to say about his being rich and how he achieved so much wealth. Now, Robert Kiyosaki is the person who benefited from the 2008 market crash, and he plans to do the same in the future. He says that this time the economic dynamics are different. This is the new economy, and we're just coming out of the longest bull run in history. It's been 11 years since it started in 2011. Robert says that in 2011, he made the biggest fortunes of his life because that was the MBS, mortgage-backed securities, and the CDL crashes. Real estate crashed, and he backed up the truck by about $300 million to buy the best real estate all across the Southwest. That was indeed a wise move. Robert stressed that this is the largest, longest bull market in history, and this time it's different. And Bitcoin's crash while he owns Bitcoin and Ethereum too. Now, Robert disagrees and feels annoyed with the people who say don't fight the Fed. So he asks this question to everybody. Can the Fed print oil? Can they print gasoline? Can the Fed print food? But still people support Fed. They sit there because they've been brainwashed by Wall Street to go do as the Fed tells you to do. Why? Robert says that it's more of a joke. You gotta be kidding me. And who tells you all this? Who lures you into this trap? According to Robert, those guys are the three stooges: Janet Yellen, Biden, and Powell. And he says, why would you even listen to them? First, Volcker said that the market's gonna crash, so he raised interest rates, right? And Powell's now channeling the spirit of Volcker, and when Volcker crushed inflation, death to GDP was 30%. And today, it's 125%, if you believe the numbers. Robert says that if you channel Volcker, and the other thing about history will tell you this: there's never been a soft landing. It's more Fed talk. In other words, whatever's happening and reaching you is what the Fed wants you to believe. So Robert said that he's made more money in the last 3 years than in his whole life. And so that's what we're going to talk about with you today in this video, about how Robert made money. Now, Robert says that there's other ways of looking at investing, but to think that power is going to save you, that's a wrong approach. As you may know, the reverse repo market's running at $2 trillion a day, and people are listening to Powell. Robert considers this a joke. Now, Robert says that he owns no stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. He doesn't touch paper. His idea is not to force people to stop considering these options, but he thinks that people have been brainwashed by the Fed, the Treasury, and whoever those guys are. Like to go to school, get a job, pay your taxes, get a high-paying job, and invest in the long term, a well-diversified portfolio, stocks, spots, mutual funds, ETFs. Robert highlights in his story that it was in 1974, when he came back from Vietnam, a two-tour Marine helicopter pilot, he saw communism at work. It was not pretty. And he came back in 1974, they passed ERISA. ERISA stands for 401k right now, or IRA. And he was baffled that they're funneling his generation, the boomers, into the stock market. And they don't know anything about money. And in 1974, the biggest exodus was school teachers suddenly becoming financial planners. And he watched that in horror, and he thought that's the poor leading the blind. And now today, we have baby boomers who are hoping the stock market stays up in their 401k just as Social Security goes bust. You think that's an accident? By telling you all this, Robert's actually trying to make a point here, that whatever happens in the market is not a coincidence, and we must keep all our senses open to observe these incidents. Now, he makes it very clear that he's not some proud billionaire, but rather just a Marine, a dumbass Marine lieutenant who flew the gunship, went down 3 times. But today, by looking at the happenings around him, he does think to himself, how can we be that stupid? He says that since childhood, they do as they've been told. Like all the other kids he went to school with, he did as he was told. And still today, people tell them, don't fight the Fed. Do as the Fed tells you. Investable, long-term, well-diversified, portfolio, stocks, mutual funds, ETFs. And don't worry, Powell is now channeling Volcker. When the debt to GDP is 120%, you gotta be kidding me. So what happened is that when the government dropped the interest rates, Robert thought he went to heaven because he used to buy apartment houses, and by now he owned 13,000 apartment houses. Now, every time the Fed dropped the interest rates, it jacked the value of his properties up. But he also improved the properties and he refinanced. So today, he owes no money in any of his properties. 13,000 units, all growing cash to sit in a bull market. In 2011, the market crashed in all the ways because the repo market went bad, and the repo market is the credit. The credit of the Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns was bad, and so they hammered that. Anyway, it's a long story. All of Robert's friends were inside that world, but then when it came back out, they just started pumping money out. What they did was that they kept printing more money to save a bad economy. It was already crashing again in 2011, but they kept printing money. And today, we're going to pay that price. Robert says that he used debt because debt is tax-free money. So what he did was he rehabbed his apartments, 13,000 of them. He just kept buying more with the cash flow, and he'd refinance out as the interest rates dropped. So he's in good shape. So Robert used debt, and those who tell you to live debt-free, well, that's their opinion. And Robert certainly doesn't do that. He says that he doesn't flip houses. Remember, there had been all those guys who were flipping, and that was stupid, because the moment you flip, you have a tax consequence. Robert never flips. He finances out this tax-free money, and not only that, when he started investing, he had to invest at 12% interest rates. Robert says that he actually likes debt, and he doesn't pay taxes because every time he borrows more money to float his properties, there's 3 types of tax breaks: appreciation, depreciation, and amortization. So he zeroes out, and his cost of money is his tax. In simple words, the tax on debt is zero, and Robert uses that tax, appreciation, depreciation, amortizations, all in which to offset tax in his income. Robert tells us that when Biden took the Keystone XL pipeline off his oil, he was selling from the ground, which is a tax break. It also went from $30 a barrel to $130 a barrel. He's of the view that this guy Biden is going to bankrupt us. I'm not saying him, but there's somebody who wants to bankrupt us because oil is a lifeblood of civilization. I went to work for Standard Oil of California as a tanker officer when I graduated from school. I understand oil. I was on the Alaska pipeline. So because of all this experience, Robert has the view that he's screwing us. So when Biden raises inflation, the poor and middle class will go broke. And that was just done. Robert says that's all planned. Whenever he looks at this guy Biden, he's of the view that Biden's going to sell America down the drain. It isn't that it's him, but somebody wants America to go broke. And he's watching this going on. Robert says that he has oil wells. He gets tax breaks for those because he doesn't invest in oil stocks. He works for Standard Oil, but he doesn't invest in a senator. He invests in the oil in the ground. He's a wildcatter. Everybody says don't do it, but Robert recommends it. But he likes doing it because these are his goals. If you don't like doing it, then don't do it. He says that there's more opportunity today than ever before, but not if you've been brainwashed into going to school, getting a job, paying taxes, living debt-free, and investing in the stock market. This bubble right now is a bigger bubble than 2008. This is the everything bubble. You know, it's not going to be only stocks, bonds, but also credit. Robert says that more opportunity is going to come out of this, and all he wants us to do is be careful who you listen to, because your best asset, but also your biggest liability, are the ideas in your head, and be careful who puts them there. So guys, this is the advice of wise Robert Kiyosaki, to do something that's different than the mainstream investment and to be very careful, and his story of how he made so much wealth. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys soon.